Hi guys, how are you doing today? Are you ready for new drama? Let's go to the first one, about OP's in-laws, who demand OP stops breastfeeding. Otherwise, they will not be attending their grandson's christening. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I had a baby boy 9 weeks ago. I wanted to have a few weeks alone with just my husband, our other son, and my newborn, without any visitors, as we had a tough labor experience, and I was breastfeeding and finding it hard. Eventually, after 4 weeks, we agreed to let my son meet his grandmother. We got in, and my husband's 2 sisters and their kids were all there, and were passing around my son and making him upset, so we left. We have seen them a few times since then, and every single time they ask when I'm going to stop breastfeeding so they can take him. First of all, I now enjoy breastfeeding, as I enjoy the closeness with my son and the alone time, and to be honest, I like having an excuse to take him back and not let him go off without me for now. I originally only planned to breastfeed for the first 6 weeks, which they all hated me doing it that long, but since then I've decided to continue till he's 6 months. My husband is fully supportive over this and has said it to his family on more than one occasion that as long as I want to breastfeed my child, I will continue to do so. Then came Easter Sunday. I was feeding in the corner on my own, nowhere near anyone else, with my dress covering my son. No one could see anything, when my sister came over with a blanket and asked me to cover up, as her husband was awkward about me feeding my son. The younger sister said it was ridiculous I'm still feeding him breast milk at 9 weeks, and he should be on bottles, and their mother is so upset, cause all she wants is to bring him off for walks and sleepovers, and she can't because of me. They gave me the ultimatum. Either breastfeed him, or they will not be attending his christening next month, or any other family events, till I stop. I was very upset, but I never saw my husband so angry. He told them all that's fine, but don't expect to see the kids again till they grow up, and then we left their house. I got loads of horrible messages saying it was all my fault because before my husband met me, he was so close to his whole family, especially his mother, and that they all loved his ex-girlfriend, who he was with for 10 years before me, better than me, and he made a mistake leaving her. So, am I the a-hole? Should I give in and move my son to bottles for their convenience, or should I stand my ground? Up until I had my son, I was very close with my husband's family and loved them very much, and all this is upsetting everyone involved. Edit. I don't want to come across as my in-laws are completely awful people, cause they aren't. My sister-in-laws are somewhat questionable, but my mother-in-law and father-in-law were always amazing to me. My eldest son is from a relationship when I was 16, so they never had him stay overnight, as he usually stays with his own dad at the weekend and me during the week, and doesn't want to go anywhere else. My new baby is their only grandchild from their only son, and my husband was her mother's favorite, and she was never afraid to tell her daughters that. It's harder for her, maybe because my son isn't her daughter's kid, so she feels like she can't be as hands-on with him as her other grandkids, maybe because she doesn't want to step on my toes. She's never asked me to stop. She has mentioned a few times she can't wait till I stop feeding him so she can have him. It's mostly my sister-in-laws that say silly, sometimes nasty things. Also, one of my sister-in-law's husbands ran off when her sons were very, very young. So she always spent a lot of time in her mother's with her kids, and her mother has been taking the kids overnight since they were very, very small to help her out. So I think they thought my son would be the same, but he won't be staying overnight for a very, very long time. OP is definitely not an a-hole. OP needs to feed her child however she darn well pleases. Just think about their rationale. They are upset because they want alone time with OP's newborn. They are focused solely on their wants. They aren't caring at all what is best for OP, her newborn, or the rest of the nuclear family. I'd tell them all to kick rocks, and that their obsession with how OP feeds her child is disturbing. I started dating my now wife when my stepdaughter, SD, was 13. She was an unruly child who constantly cried and whined and lashed out for attention. My wife couldn't take SD's crap anymore, so she kicked her out when she was 14. SD moved in with her father, who's a jerk to me and my wife, but he did a good job disciplining SD. He had turned her into a nice, quiet, and obedient child. SD continued to behave and treat us with respect until she moved to another city when she was 24. She stopped coming home for holidays. My wife was devastated, but she understood that SD needed to have a life of her own. SD is now 28, and the angry emails started coming 2 years ago. They're incoherent, rant-filled emails with all kinds of outlandish accusations toward my wife. Lots of accusations of neglect and abuse being thrown around. More accusations of favoring her siblings over her. My wife tried to justify herself in the beginning, but it only made SD angrier, so my wife decided to ignore these emails altogether. Every time my wife gets one of these nasty emails, she breaks down crying. She has had to call off work to recoup from the pain of reading these emails. I've spent countless hours comforting my wife and telling her that she was not the problem, and SD just needed therapy to deal with her own issues instead of taking them out on my wife. My wife has another daughter who's SD's younger sister. Honestly, she's not much nicer and gets along with my wife. She goes to my wife every time she has a problem, and my wife helps her out. She treats my wife with respect, and there's nothing but love between the two of them. They have an excellent mother-daughter relationship. SD has always been very jealous of her sister, and she resents the wonderful relationship her mother and sister have. Last November, SD's younger sister found out she was pregnant, and the baby's father skipped out on her. Of course, she came to my wife for comfort. We offered to let her move in with us until she got back on her feet. SD found out what happened, and she flipped out. My wife got yet another angry email. SD accused her of always making time for her younger sister and not her. My wife was stressed out about the pregnancy, so she ignored SD's email. I read it and decided that enough was enough. I emailed SD, told her to stop living in the past, and if she treated her mother better, she'd have a better relationship with her like her younger sister does. Of course, SD got pissed off. She sent everyone in the family a goodbye letter and cut all of us out of her life. My wife is devastated, and they're all blaming me for driving her away. I thought that she was just bluffing for attention, but it's been 8 months, and none of us have heard a peep from her. I still think I did the right thing by putting her in her place. She probably felt that no one would take her crap anymore, so she fled. But I feel bad for driving a bigger wedge between her and her mother. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I want to clarify something. I did not kick SD out. Her mother was the only one who did that. I wasn't even living there at the time. We got married when SD was 20. I have no children with my wife. All of the children are hers with her ex. I have no biological children of my own. My wife made some mistakes with SD, and she feels very terrible about it. My only issue with SD is the way she treats my wife. She needs to deal with her anger on her own. It's not my nor my wife's responsibility to placate her, and my wife does not need to deal with her emails. OP's wife is the biggest a-hole for kicking out a 14-year-old child and then being surprised that the child feels neglected and has resentment as an adult. My suspicion is that if the behavioral problems were solved by moving in with the other parent, chances are OP's wife and OP are a big part of the problem. OP's stepdaughter story is a textbook case of narcissistic A. She's been treated as a scapegoat while her younger sister is the golden child. The details OP have put forward make it pretty clear. Ultimately, OP is the biggest a-hole for getting involved the way that he did. OP severed a relationship instead of trying to repair it. If a 14-year-old is whining for attention, something's not right. I, 51 male, married my wife, 46 female, 6 years ago. We now have 4 wonderful boys, 5, 3, 2, 4 months. I also have a stepdaughter, Ellie, who is almost 15. I have always gone running in the mornings, and often my favorite time for running is right when my youngest tends to wake up. My wife usually gets the kids up and gets them ready, but she works a night shift, so I don't want her getting up 2 hours after she goes to bed. To solve this problem, I decided that Ellie should help out more. She gets a pretty big allowance for doing not that many chores, and I figured giving her the kids' breakfast wouldn't be too hard for her. Unfortunately, she has decided that 2 a.m. would be a wonderful time to go to bed, and therefore isn't up at 9 when the kids get up. She told me this, and I basically told her, tough luck, she should go to bed earlier. She said that my kids weren't her responsibility, and I should just take care of them myself. I reminded her that they were her siblings and she should just go to bed earlier. I also reminded her that she receives a generous allowance and that it could definitely be reduced. She says that she already does a huge amount of chores. She doesn't. She absolutely refused, calling me a selfish a-hole because I can't quit running to take care of my children. The thing is, I wouldn't have to quit running if she would just grow up and help out a little. I grounded her for her use of language and for being disobedient. Now she's mad, and my wife says I should have been kinder. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. To the people calling this parentification, or whatever it is, this isn't that. Parentification is absolutely A, but this is just me trying to get her to take some responsibility for her younger siblings. Edit 2. I don't dislike Ellie. I tried to bond with her when she was young, but she always insisted that I would never be her father, so I stopped trying. She's my wife's daughter. Yes, I think OP is an a-hole. It's his responsibility as the parent to take care of his kids. It's not OP's stepdaughter's responsibility. If OP wants to go for a run, he should get up earlier so he can be back in time to take care of his kids. Children are the responsibility of their parents and are not a chore for a teenager. Update. Yes, I am definitely the a-hole. After reading through the many comments and PMs I got telling me I was a horrible person, I have to admit I was feeling pretty defensive. I didn't think I was a horrible person, but everybody was telling me I was. Then I decided to actually sit through and read every comment I got, and I slowly started to realize that I really messed up. When I first married my wife, I was thrilled to have a stepdaughter. I had always wanted a daughter, and I was so excited to finally be a dad. However, I didn't think about how she would have been feeling. Ellie has a father who she's very close with, but I never stopped to think about how she would react all of a sudden to having a stepfather in her life. I expected her to treat me like her father without realizing that she already had a father, and I had done nothing to deserve that role. I expected too much from her too soon, and when she didn't immediately start calling me her dad, I stopped trying at all. Instead, I had other kids, but she never apparently became close with them either. She has a stepmother and step-siblings, as well as half-siblings in her father's family, and she's extremely close with all of them. I was so jealous of her attachment to them that I never bothered to think about how I messed up the relationship I could have had with her. I talked to Ellie the other day, and I apologized for the way I treated her, and apologized for grounding her. She said it was okay, she shouldn't have cursed at me, but she didn't want to take care of her siblings at all. I'm buying a treadmill, and Ellie is moving in with her dad. That's it. By the end of next month, she is going to be gone. This isn't how I wanted this to end. The boys are distraught over losing their sister. My wife isn't speaking to me. Even the dogs can feel the weight in the air. And it's all my fault. I don't think I'll ever be able to build a relationship with her at this point. I threw away every chance I got to become close with her. And now I'm out of tries. Edit. Many of you are telling me that I definitely need to keep speaking to her, and I plan to. While she might not be my daughter, she is a part of my family, and I do not want to part on bad terms with her. I spoke to Ellie earlier, and she expressed that she would be okay if I was just an uncle instead of a dad. And that is good enough for me. I've been trying to spend more time with her lately, and it's been going okay. She said that she doesn't want us to part on bad terms because then things will be awkward and that would suck. We're gonna make stir-fry later. Edit 2. We made stir-fry. Then I taught her how to make chocolate frosting, and we talked a lot. At first it was awkward, but it got easier. Ellie talked about her dad and her stepmom and her siblings. She has 11 siblings. She told me that she has so many siblings they blur together. She doesn't have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 5-month-old brother. She has younger siblings. I found out that Ellie has an account. In fact, she regularly participates in Reddit thread Am I an a-hole? She saw the original post. She saw me get torn apart in comments. She told me I'm a jerk, and I agreed. She saw this post too. I asked her if she wanted to put a comment down. She said she doesn't want me to know what her account is called. I asked her if family therapy would be okay. She said yes, as long as we also get Starbucks. I'm okay with that, even if it means I have to drink that birthday cake in a cup that apparently passes for coffee. I hope this keeps happening. I enjoy her company. She's a bright kid. So I, 13 female, was adopted from China when I was a baby. I have 3 sisters, twins, 15 female, and another sister who would be 25 now but passed when she was 19. My eldest sister was 12 when I was born and almost 14 when I was brought home, but she always hated me. I'm not sure why. I didn't know her that well and my parents didn't like to talk about it. She was very smart in high school and got into pretty good state university. But when she got there, she struggled. Coming from being a smart girl in a small town, she really had trouble being average and got into hanging out with some not good people, and she ended up getting into D. Well, during Thanksgiving on her first year of college, she got into a big fight with my parents because she didn't want to come home because 6-year-old me would be there. After that fight, she decided to write a will. I also wanted to mention that my maternal grandfather was very rich and died before me or my twin sisters were born. He was worth about $5 million and split it between my parents and my eldest sister under the condition that she would have access to it when she was 25. When my sister wrote the will, she split the money between her real sisters. About a year later, she accidentally overdosed and that will was found in her dorm. My parents saw that it said real sisters rather than my biological sisters. I am her real sister by law, and they split it between the 3 of us, even though they knew what she meant. I don't know how to feel. I mean, I would be a bit jealous if my sisters got to live very amazing and luxurious lives, and I got what my parents could give me. Even though it would be a lot, it would not even compare to them. My twin sisters love me and do not mind this at all, but I still wonder if I would be the a-hole if I accepted the money. So, will I be an a-hole if I accepted this money? Edit. Just to be clear, I don't think the will was legally binding, but my parents decided to execute it anyway. Also, I plan on donating a good percentage of the money to rehab centers to help people in similar situations to my sister. I don't think OP would be an a-hole. OP should accept the money if it isn't causing any hard feelings with any other relatives, and use it to put positivity into the world.